Hello, and thank you for joining this presentation, Christmas in Mexico, Importance and Different Adaptations. I'm Laurel Westendorf. I'm part of the Community Relations team at the Deschutes Public Library. Every month we explore a theme, and this month we're exploring Feliz. Our presenter is Dr. Enrique Chacón, Assistant Professor of Spanish at Southern Oregon University. His main focus is Mexican literature, film, and visual arts, and he has an MA and Ph.D. from the University of Pittsburgh. Thank you, Dr. Chacón, for explaining how this holiday shows the richness and diversity of Mexican culture.
Thanks for having me. I'm very pleased to be here with you and all the people that might watch this recording. Mm-hmm. So what I want to do is basically just talk a little bit about how the importance of this celebration for Mexican culture. I'm gonna show. I have a PowerPoint to show, but what I want to do today is just to present some of my. These ideas they come mostly from my perception as a Mexican that I have lived in different places in Mexico. So they show I just want to share what is my perception and also some other information related to this holiday. So I'm gonna start sharing my PowerPoint. I have different images here. So the idea is just to explain just a bit about the origin, and then I'll show you some examples. Just gonna take my time here, so I don't go. I don't exceed the time that I have been given. Okay. So I want to start just by explaining a couple aspects of Mexican culture that I think they're very important to understand in order to understand what happens during these holidays. So basically, what I want to start, I want to bring to the beginning, right, is that the culture in Mexico is presented as a syncretic culture, that it's the fusion of two or more cultures. At the beginning, Mexican culture has been presented not only by the government, but many cultural institutions, has been promoted as right syncretic, and it's called mestizo, right? That idea was it's a Mexican invention that defines what people and the culture are. And it means basically just the fusion of two cultures, right? But recently, and as we know, around 7 years ago, finally, Mexican institutions, government, and so on, they recognize the presence and the cultural importance of African descendants. In the past, used to be just were the fusion of European and Indigenous, but now they're acknowledging and recognizing the presence of African cultures. So that is very important, and I think that is a very important achievement as well. But the idea is like just this origin, it's supposed to be, right, this fusion between Europeans, Spaniards, right, and now which is the people from central Mexico, the Aztecs, right, that is the discourse they created to represent what it is to be a Mexican in Mexico and how the culture works. So it's a term that implies race and culture. So it's not only racial; it means also a culture that religion and everything else. It's a mix between these two cultures. They accept, right? So it's there, and it has been there. I have this example of this mural of Hernán Cortés and La Malinche, which is in the history a great example of how this worked, right? Hernan Cortés, who was a conqueror of Mexico, and his indigenous wife, and then they represented their child here. José Clemente Orozco is one of the greatest muralists from Mexico. So this topic has been there all the time, over and over, right? So it's Mexico, and this is how we arrived to these cultures, to what we are. So this is a very famous mural that is in a museum of San Ildefonso in Mexico City. And just this representation, if you can see, very white man, almost like pale, right? And his wife, right? So the importance of Navidad, I wanted to say that is both. It's a very, the importance, it's religious and cultural. For many people, I would say it's more, I'm not that sure, but I think it's more cultural than it's also religious. But I think the cultural importance is very deep, and it has a very, very strong roots. And even if many other people in Mexico, like many people, they don't practice nowadays religion, Christmas is still very important. For example, I would say that it's very similar to Thanksgiving in the US, even if Thanksgiving is not a religious celebration. The idea is that allows family and friends to reconnect or to to come together. And is when the people they have time, days off, so they can come and travel if they're away, or spend times with their family and friends. So it's very, I think it's very similar. And as I mentioned, even if people are not religious, they would celebrate Christmas as well, as and because it's the time where you can visit friends and visit family, and sharing in these, the vibe is, right, bring together, forgive, come together, do stuff with the family and friends, and you can celebrate, right? But there are particularities, very important differences in the celebration in Mexico, unlike any other Christian countries or Catholics. And I'm just going to talk about a little bit later about posadas, pastorelas, and I'll explain the meaning. And then also Santa Claus and the three wise men, they shared the gift market. There's a big influence of Santa Claus and this man, the wise man. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about when does this Christmas vibe starts. So the Christmas season basically starts on December 12th, which is the day of the Virgin of Guadalupe, right? And ends on January 6th with the Three Wise Man Day. So it's a very long time. It's more than a month. And if you take that, sometimes people start celebrating the 9 days of praying before the 12th. It starts pretty early on December, and so this kind of sets the tone for the celebration. The Virgen de Guadalupe, it's a very important icon for Mexican culture as well. So this sets the tone for the celebration. It starts December 12th, and it's basically 1 month of this religious vibe, but it's not the same. I'll show later a map, and then I'll just make some other comments about this, my perception. So it ends in January 12th, January 6th, with the celebration of Reyes Magos, which they bring the gifts, right, for the kids. So this is very important as well. Nacimiento, which is the birth scene, is very important for this. This usually goes under the Christmas tree, and it's also used in many, also in other European countries and Spain and so on. But in Mexico has its own adaptations. I'm just want to show a couple other pictures about what decorations in Mexico, what they do. They the most of the cities, they decorate the city itself, like many other cities in the United States, they do the same. This is an example of Mexico City with this huge Christmas tree. And we have also here a giant piñata hanging. And also usually here under this tree, you're gonna find something, Nacimiento, big scale. So usually you're gonna find that as well, with all the shepherds and the wise men and so on. So Christmas basically comes from Navidad, right? The birth, the day of the birth, and in these particularities, Posadas, they're essential for the celebration. And this is very important because from the colonial era, they were used to indoctrinate people. And even if now defines the culture, they were used to colonize people culturally, and they were used in this way. So there were some device to introduce religion, pastorelas and posadas, and they were a lot of similarities as well between the Aztec culture and the Spaniard culture when it comes to religion and the importance of performances and the importance of society. So that just helped to establish bridges between these two celebrations, right, during these holidays. So posada literally means to give shelter. That's what it means. And they're usually organized by the community, and they start 9 days before the Christmas Eve. And they're gonna do one every year, every day. And that is pretty intense, right? Every day they're gonna have one. And it's some reenactment of this pilgrimage that the Holy Family did during the when they were trying to find shelter, right? So it's a reenactment. It's a ritualized performance, and they sing a lot. The most of the they're not dialogues, they're songs, and it's very ritualized. So in this performance, at the end, they have a little party where they have food and drinks. Usually they have traditional drinks like some punch or tamales or many other things. There are quite varied possibilities here. And since each day the posada is hosted by a different family, usually they agree. There are usually 9 families that are going to host the family for one day, and then the next day they'll walk and they'll perform the ritual when they're traveling, when they're taking the family from one house to the other. So each day the host family has to offer something for food and drinks, and this is very important. Also, it shows like how the community is connected, and they're not only these families invited, there are many other people invited. So every day during 9 days, there somehow a big party which has food, drinks, songs, religious. So the origin, I'm gonna show, before continuing, I'm just gonna show a little video so we can see how this is made. I'm gonna be going forward, so I just want to show how this works. So we have this video, and this is the house where the family was for overnight, right? And they're gonna take the Holy Family out and then walk to the next house. So I'm just gonna show you how they walk from one house to another, and they carry them, and then the people in the back are singing.
María y el Señor San José
They're singing,
en busca de un lugar
and they're singing. They have candles. Sometimes they have incense and many other things. Sometimes they have live music. It depends on what the family. Sometimes class. It depends, right? So this is a short, small celebration. And then at the end, they get to the place where they're gonna ask for the shelter. So if you see, they have everything. Everything has to be their songs, and then at the end they pray, and obviously they have the piñata, right? There's always a piñata at the end, and also at the end they're gonna have some food, and the next day they're gonna repeat the same. So they also give candy like she's doing. They have some hot beverages like tea, or they can have many other things, and they're gonna eat, right? So that is the posada. And so the origin, it's very interesting. The origin, it's a celebration of the birth with Huitzilopochtli, which it's a god that was very important for the Aztecs. And for the Aztec, this celebration lasted 20 days. So they had also religious celebrations. And if you see, it's very important because of the winter solstice, which is also there in the Christian religion. It's they adapted, right? So it was used in that way. So it could be they can be adapted to many other cultures. They guided their calendars with the sun, right, or the moon. And with Huitzilopochtli also was very important for the Aztecs, because he guided them through some pilgrimage. So if you see, there are similarities between what happened between these two cultures and the pilgrimage of the Holy Family. So the Aztecs could relate to this. So there are many similarities, and this particular celebration of Posada helped the priest to teach the indigenous people the new religion. But at the beginning, obviously, they were being resistant. So they used all the celebrations when they allowed them to bring their own ideas of what does that celebration meant. So at the beginning, for sure, I don't know this for sure, but in many other celebrations, this has been noted. For sure, at the beginning, they will have to carry. They might carry some figures of these other gods along with this Christian family, right? Jose and Mary, and so they allow them to mix, but then expecting that over time they would accept just to carry the Christian figures. And this was present in many other ways, like even today they have been found like behind, or they used to dig behind the Christian saints. They used to dig and have their own gods hidden. So they would go and pray, but not for the Christian gods, but they would pray for their own gods. So that was this is there. So they will come together, these two cultures. So a posada, it shows how this culture it's syncretic, and you can find elements of these two cultures there. Is not just one culture showing their practices. There are two there. And also the posada was also a device, right? So they usually have 7 spikes, which each of them presents a deadly sin. So the idea is that you destroy the sins, and then at the end you receive this gift, right? So that's very important also. La piñata, right? And also later the piñata started being used in Mexico for birthday parties. It's pretty common to have one when you celebrate your birthday. So piñatas. And then also pastorelas, they're plays that they're pretty common. I think they're not that common nowadays when they're performed by families. I remember when I was a kid, there was a family, they were neighbors, and they would organize this place. It was pretty fun. But this is becoming rare with, time. And now pastorelas they're more common as more, I would say, professional plays. Sometimes the kids play them. They organize this place in school and so on, but they're now more like theater companies and groups. They perform this kind of plays. So the idea is it's a representation of the shepherds. Usually that's how it is. The shepherds that go to praise the newborn Jesus Christ, but they're going to be demons that are going to try to prevent this to happen. Like they want to distract them. They want to, they offer them things, or they cause them accidents and whatnot. And then at the end, the angels have held them together. There are many versions of these. Representations. Usually, they're not like a strict script, but usually they're in verse. So there are some old, many versions. But usually as well, and this is pretty interesting, pastorelas, since it's not strictly religious practice, is more like a cultural, even if the topic is Christmas, but they're always used they always include political themes. They always make allusion to the direct reality. Let's say if they're going to be a pastorela now in Mexico, for sure there's gonna be a lot of jokes about COVID-19, and probably a demon is gonna be a COVID-19 representation of the virus or something. I'm pretty sure that's gonna happen. If that happens at all, there are gonna be a lot of references to what we're actually living. And this is also a sign of how the priest and the colonial powers from Spain, they were trying to show, but then to teach them, but then at the same time allow the indigenous people to bring their own knowledge and concerns and many other things, and so they can at the same time learn, but also show their ideas. But at the end, obviously, and they were aiming to finally they would become Christian, right? So that has been from the very beginning. It's there in the origin of this celebration. So pastorelas, it's pretty interesting. Usually, and well, I wouldn't say usually, probably 99% of the time, they're comedies, and the idea is that people to have fun. That is the idea. And I'm just gonna show you one example of this. And I have here just one. This is very recent, I think. So he's an angel. And
ay, sí, ¿verdad? No, ni Dios lo mande. ¡Me llamaste! No, la verdad no. Y es más, yo no sé por qué siempre metes tus narices donde no te llaman. Pues yo escuché lo que dijiste. Aunque me tenga que vender mi alma al diablo.
So if you see, this angel has a cell phone on his hand, and he was calling someone at the very beginning. So they usually are gonna be kind of comedies, and then they have the shepherd.
A la tierra.
And usually they're gonna be comedies.
Oiga.
So that is the idea with the pastorela, right? And then, so another way in which we can see the cultural exchanges and influences and so on, it's food, right? That is very important for Christmas. And in food, not only in Mexican culture, but in every culture, you can see kind of what the culture actually is. Food is a great example of what food means and is for people. So in terms of Mexico, you can see these different dishes, and this is a very traditional Mexican dish for Central Mexico, which is cod. They get it dried, and the most of the ingredients are Europeans. So they use a lot of garlic and onions and capers, and they also use olives, like you can see here in this picture. And you have it with bread, which is also right European. And that is a very important dish for the culture. I lived in Puebla, and pretty much every family would do it. But then you have these kind of dishes, but and then at the same time you also have tamales, pozole, mole, many other things. But this is very traditional. I think for Christmas, pretty much every family will have some tamales. That's also very important. Sometimes mole, pozole, some other kind of soups. The pozole, it's a soup made with chicken or pork, different meats and corn. And mole, it's a sauce that it's very famous, and there are many different recipes for this. So this is very just to show you how the cultures interact. Sometimes mole is made with chicken or turkey. It depends, right? And as we know, turkey, it's when it's Christmas, people would tend to do it with turkey, the mole sauce, because it's also important for that. It's somehow this, I would say people perceive that as more elaborate to do it with turkey and more probably fancy. I don't know how to say it, but it's more important. And also these also in Mexico, northern Mexico, you tend to have these things that they're more influenced by European taste or American taste, right? Even if turkey is it's a bird from this continent, the style can be more American in northern Mexico, or ham, right? So, and then this is very important as well. You can see here the influence. I found this picture on the internet, and I think this is somehow accurate, right? Northern Mexico, all this region, Santaclós owns this region. He's who brings the gifts. So the gifts are, the kids receive the gifts in December 25th. And the rest of the country, usually they're gonna bring it on January 6th, which is the day that they celebrate the wise man. And also they'll have the traditional cake for that, and that sets for another celebration. So, but here you can see the influence of the United States, right? Where Santa Claus and food and many other things have a lot of influence. So, for example, I was born in this region right here, and we rarely celebrated these guys. So usually this guy would bring, Santa Claus would bring stuff for us. and also food is more influenced by, even if it's Mexican, right? We also can see the influence of the United States. And also there are many, it's important that we know that there are many particularities in different regions. For example, all this region in the South, they're gonna have some other practices that I don't have time to explain, but they're from this region was populated, but it's populated by Mayan cultures, that was populated by Maya culture, so they have different influences. So, but I just wanted to show a couple examples, right? And I was talking about central Mexico would be around this region, right? So this is Puebla state where I lived for a number of years, right? Santaclós. So you can see the celebration of Santa Claus in northern Mexico, right? And then that shows how from the very beginning, from the origin, this celebration has been adapted and has received influence from different cultures, and also it's still being adapted. And I'm not that sure how is that going to change later, but you can see a lot of adaptations and new ways of celebrating this Christmas day. Okay, that's all I have, and I don't know if you have questions.
Thank you, Enrique. Not at the moment. I guess I'm always just amazed by the diversity of Mexico and the many different cultures that are overlaid on each other there. And I thought you're ending with, okay, the southern part, we haven't even really gotten there yet. Like, yeah. Like they may have completely different, because it's overlaid over Mayan instead of Aztec influences.
Yes, and just to give you an idea, like it's still nowadays in Mexico, they're spoken 60 languages. So that just can show the different perspectives of the world and the different ways in which they can adapt their celebrations. So this idea of Posada, it's very important in central Mexico as well as the Virgin of Guadalupe. It's very important, but then it's not reflected in the same way in northeast Mexico, the coast. There are a lot of different adaptations, right? Mm-hmm. And just in my experience living in northern Mexico, where there might be more influence of probably non-religious people or Protestants or different things. Virgin of Guadalupe is important, but it's not that important as it is in central Mexico, because you can see that it's religious, but then it's also there in the culture. People feel that they have to do something. Like when I lived in Puebla also, I have friends that they were not religious, but then the family, the day of the Virgin, they will have some dinner as well. And that'll have the vibe of Christmas. Like, you have to come with us, right? We have to celebrate. And I say, yeah, sure. Great food. It's always, I'm gonna accept it, always, right?
Yeah, I love the pictures of the food and how important that is to the celebrations. I thought it was interesting how you said that like Christmas in Mexico is more similar to Thanksgiving here, because is it because of like there's a lack of emphasis on gifts and more on family?
Totally. And if you see, for example, now we're discussing like how people, they want to travel to celebrate Thanksgiving.
Right.
I don't think there will be any other celebration in Mexico that will have that importance. So people would say, I have to go there. I have to be there. It's worth taking the risk than Christmas, even if you're not religious, right? Because everyone is gonna be there, so you want to be there. So I think it's pretty similar. When I moved to the States, in the way which people described Thanksgiving, resemble a lot Christmas for me. And it's not because it's religious, it's because of what the people do and want to do during the holiday, right? And yeah, you can see many adaptations, like for example, tamales. You can get tamales. I think it's also a must in Christmas, but there are 10,000 different types of tamales. Just for example, I remember when I taught a course in Chiapas like 8 years ago, and they took me to this town where they have different types, and in that town they kind of produce all the types of tamales that they have in Chiapas. They have 9 different types, different kinds of tamales, and then the next state has some other, right? And there are just like many possibilities for that.
Sounds delicious.
It sounds delicious and fun and worth visiting that town. It's really cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Dr. Chacón, for sharing with us. And thank you to you in the audience for joining us virtually. We have many wonderful programs that you can check out that are all fun, free, and virtual. The monthly event guide and the event calendar are both at DeschutesLibrary.org and are great places to find upcoming programs or recordings of programs like this. And until next time, have a good time and be safe, everyone.
Thanks for having me.